So basically, for those of you that don't know, Semaine is a online content and e-commerce platform centered around weekly influential tastemakers. And user profiling is super important for us, and it actually was kind of the reason that we started the business. So I have a co-founder who's actually not here today because we have another shoot. But the reason we started Semaine is because both her and I are, I guess, modern millennial women. And we really saw that there was a gap. You know, I'm here to kind of talk about content and yeah, I think what is important to say, like, why we were doing it and why we wanted to create content. So there are so many different media platforms out there right now and online magazines, and, you know, most of them are amazing, but we felt that there was a huge opportunity to speak in a new way to our audience. Like, this was an audience that was not necessarily just interested in like 10 ways to get thin or like 10 ways to get laid. Like, it was someone that, you know, really, really wanted to be engaged and be inspired and be informed. So that was the kind of start of Semaine. And as you'll see at the bottom, and if you go to our site, you click stories and you have all of our different profiles of people. And every single week we highlight someone who is super different. So it can be anyone from like Rohan Silva, who started Second Home, who can teach you about what it means to be an entrepreneur and how to think optimistically, to Jemima Kirk, who is like the most incredible person in the world. She's, you know, an actress, a mother, an artist, and basically, what was important for us is to really understand, like, why we were doing it and why the user was important and why we wanted them to engage with our content. So as we were kind of talking about before, it was, you know, really identifying the user and being very human about it. So almost like giving them a personality. So at Semaine, we came up with Sophie. And it's really important to kind of like, before you think about the kind of content or the story or whatever you're going to make, you need to think about who you're talking to. So at Semaine, we had Sophie, and we were like, you know, Sophie's this modern millennial woman, and she's kind of over the sites that are on right now. And she really wants meaning behind what she does. She wants to be informed, she wants to be engaged, and she also wants to shop, and she wants to shop products that are not just on the high street or not at net, but, you know, products that have a meaning or a story or that are kind of, I guess, that she can discover. So that's kind of how Semaine was born. And then we were thinking about, you know, why are we creating content and what is the relationship between us and our user? So I think the two things to think about when you're producing your own content is, you know, what and why. So it's like, what are you producing, and then why you know, what is the reason behind it? And also, which I think is so important that so many people forget or like don't think about, is how you want people to consume your content. Because I think we're in such a, I guess, a cluttered landscape, and everyone's like, you know, there are like 19 million ways to talk to your user, and you can like talk to them on Snapchat and Instagram, and it's bite size and it's long form and it's video and it's audio, and it's like, I think what is important to really to understand kind of, yeah, like how you want people to consume it. And it's also, you know, the way that we see it, which is a bit random, is like a relationship. Like if you think about the relationship you have with someone like Netflix, it's kind of like your boyfriend. Like you like binge for like 9 hours, lying in bed, usually hungover. And so I can kind of walk you through the site. So we have every single week, well, most weeks, we have a film. And the film is really there to like draw the person in. So it's there to inform, engage. It's usually quite ironic, a bit witty. And then we have a long form written profile about the tastemaker. And again, like when you're thinking about what content, like we produce this because we hope it will inspire people, and, you know, thinking about our Sophie, our user, and how she's going to really engage with it. So, you know, we see Sophie reading this when she has time. So is she commuting or is she at work, and she kind of wants, like, you know, she's on her lunch break and she actually wants to have a laid back experience. Like, you know, why are we creating it? How do we want her to read it? And then you kind of I can not have to show you the entire site, but you keep going down and there's different modules of content. So right here we have a Get the Look section, which is kind of used to create context around our shopping experience. But as well as the site, we're a digital platform and we have different social accounts. And I think that's something that's really important too, is to think about your content and how it lives on all your different platforms. So for us, our site is kind of like our home. It's like our hub where people come and they can spend a long time. We actually have a lot of our users spending 4 to 5 minutes on our site, which is a long time. So for us, we can really think about that when we're creating our content. And it's like, if we have someone's attention for 4 minutes, how do we want them to feel? Do we want them to be engaged or to learn something, or do they want to come because, they just want to be entertained? And then also when you're thinking of social, think about the way that in your relationship, the way that you engage with someone on social media. So if it's Instagram, for instance, you're probably the first thing they see when they wake up, like half an eye, and also, it's like the quick fix. I won't say what it's like. And also it's like, the last thing you look at before bed. So think about the content that you're producing and how you want people to engage with you on that. So, maybe for us, for example, we're a lot more kind of inspiring and informative on our site, but on our social media, we're a lot kind of more throwaway. It's kind of funny. It's a bit ironic. It's almost like a quick fix of Semaine. And then I think what is also really important is to think about your tribe and your club. And I think with content, and I guess with brands, when you're creating something, you need to know who you're for, but you also need to have an opinion and know who you're not for. Someone, I think it was at a conference once, said, if 80% of the people are kind of don't like you or a bit shocked by you, how do you expect the 20% of the people to become your loyal fan? And if you think about brands that have done really well, like WA, or even brands like Supreme, what is so amazing is everything they do, everything they produce, whether it's a piece of clothing or a piece of content or a message or communication, is for their dedicated user. And I think that's super important. If you're for everyone, you're kind of for no one. So I think it's really important to, especially when you're making content or you're kind of curating your own communication or message, it's about being we're like this and we're for you, and we're not for others.